Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming. My name is Charlie. Now, if you like Star Wars, if you like tabletop gaming, did you know you could smush the two together and play some Star Wars tabletop games? I mean, admittedly, you probably did, but I want to talk about them, and this is my excuse to do so because it is Star Wars Day. Happy May the 4th to all of you. Now, with that, let's begin with just a random selection of Star Wars games that you might want to put on your tabletop, and we will begin with what I consider to be the big one. Let's start with Star Wars Rebellion. Now, this was actually one of the first games to come to my tabletop. We had maybe 3 or 4 beforehand, and then got excited that there was a massive Star Wars game that had really cool stuff in it, spent the cash, got the box, read the instructions, panicked. It was something like a 4-hour first game to get used to it. So this is not one for the faint-hearted. This is sort of, we were in too early. A couple of games later we'd have been fine. Too early in our board game career. However, when you take a look at it, it is phenomenal. It is beautiful. So you've got 2 huge boards. You're using up a lot of tabletop real estate on this one, alongside a ton of miniatures. Now you're going to be playing asymmetrically. So obviously it's the Rebellion versus the Empire, and the Rebellion are trying to hide their secret base and keep it hidden, whilst also building up sort of reinforcements to be able to then take on the enemy. Now it's a very tricky strategic game, and it feels, when you play as the Rebellion, especially the first time, that everything is stacked against you, which is quite accurate, let's be honest, but it can get quite tricky as you go through. There are things you need to consider, like making sure you're making the most of your mission cards to sort of boost you further, making sure that you're keeping everybody else, keeping the Empire away. And when you're playing as the Empire, you feel like you have all the power. You feel like you're going to win this easily, and as you're sort of sneaking round, you suddenly realise actually the odds are stacked against you if the other player is playing correctly. It depends. I'm not very good at it, but I love it. It's a game we don't get out very often, but one I would absolutely recommend, because once you do get it out, you have a really beautiful time with it, especially because those miniatures are so nicely done that you really feel like you've got your money's worth from this game, and you're able to be in Star Wars for a certain amount of time. Number 2 is a game that may surprise some of you because it's actually quite difficult to get hold of, so if you're fortunate enough to get a copy, this is Sabacc. Now, if you know your Star Wars lore, you will know that Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian, which is a point of contention between them. Now, he won that from Lando Calrissian in a game, which is pretty much like a sort of pokerish game with like bluffing and playing. And the game was Sabacc, which you are now able to purchase as a game that you can play. Now, I don't condone betting your Millennium Falcon on it. Maybe something smaller scale, like maybe just an X-Wing. But it is a great game to play. It is nice and quick, and it's just really a card game that's got a Star Wars back history, which is enough to make it enjoyable and enough to be able to play with friends and maybe disguise it as a non-Star Wars game if you're trying to sneak them in, or just for a quick evening filler. We're upping the player count for the next one, which is Star Wars Imperial Assault. Now this one is for 2 to 5 players, whereas the others have been lower. Now this is again, quite tactical, but again, phenomenal Star Wars game. This is another skirmish style game, so you'll see that it works really well with Star Wars and the way Star Wars is to translate into these styles of games. Now, this is after the explosion of the Death Star over Yavin 4, and it is between the Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance, I should say. But they're trying to get through the cracks of the Empire and defeat them finally, overall, in a sort of weighted skirmish game. It takes 1 to 2 hours to play, and there are, again, plenty of expansions. It's another one from Fantasy Flight, much like Star Wars Rebellion was, and they do seem to cater to the fans, shall we say. So I'm excited with this game, therefore I'm going to buy this game, and I'm going to be buzzing about it. Next up, we'll take a look at Dark Side Rising from the Op. Now, you may have seen Rising games before, because they're a thing. This one gives you an impressive Darth Vader in the middle, and you're going to be trying to defeat him. Of course, it is not as easy as that. There are always complications with games, because otherwise, how would you enjoy them? In short, it's a card and dice game where you're going to be trying to recruit other rebels to be able to defeat the Empire, because of course, the Empire shouldn't be sticking around. We need to stop that. This game is quite nice as well, because it incorporates the really classic characters, so you're going to have C-3PO, you're going to have Han Solo, you're going to have all of those available to you, so it's a nice one to be able to embrace your fandom within a game, and it's quite light as well. There's something you could, maybe not a gateway game, maybe one after. Oh, that's arguable. Okay, somewhere in sort of the early stages, this is not a game with a really heavy weighting, which means you can play it, hopefully, with more people, and especially those Star Wars fans that are just looking for a little bit more Star Wars in their life. Finally, let's talk about Star Wars X-Wing miniatures. Now, I mentioned before games that have like little expansions and things where you get cool extra stuff. X-Wing Miniatures does this to a T. Now again, it is a skirmish game, but it's a skirmish game in the skies because you're going to be fighting amongst space. Is space sky? We're going to be fighting in space. basically you're going to be able to sort of dictate how your aerial craft's moved, whether that's a A-wing, an X-wing, or whatever else in between, and it's going to feel like they have their individual powers and their individual things that you can customise and make your own. So with each expansion you can bring more in to suit your style, and with each way of playing you're going to kind of localise which ones do best in certain things so that you're able to do the impressive stuff. Now in my head all I can think of is Red 5 standing by, which I hope that you do too, but this sort of applies to that very much so. It is a very big game, but a very fun game, and sort of the way to get into things as well. If you're interested in playing this style of game, doing so with Star Wars makes it more accessible as well. I would 100% recommend you pick this one up. And so whilst there are so many Star Wars games that I could have mentioned and could still go on for probably about 20 minutes, I'm going to stop there and allow you to tell me your favourite Star Wars games in the comments. I hope you have a wonderful Star Wars day. May the Force be with you, and thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do give us a like and give me a comment on anything you want to chat about Star Wars wise. I am here for it. And if you want anything more, check out tabletopgaming.co.uk for more stuff to do with tabletop games. Have fun. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day and see you soon.